It's 3-for-1 Cancer Day. And what I mean by that is 3 stories, 1 video. Simply because they weren't all long enough to warrant their own video, so I thought I'd combine them all into one. Plus, 3-for-1 Cancer Day kind of sounds like an interesting title for a video, so, gotta work the YouTube algorithm because, apparently I'm only doing this to get rich. Sorry, I had to bring that back. So let's start at the beginning. And let me warn you, the first story is kind of gross. It was definitely a gross experience. I'm assuming that hearing it will also be gross, but it's part of the experience, part of the journey, and that's the whole point, is to share what I'm going through, and that's what I went through. So just wanted to give you that warning beforehand. So yesterday, went out, bought some groceries, and just now I got distracted by a cat walking by outside, but that's beside the point. I guess it's 4-in-1 Cancer Day. So anyway, went to buy groceries, so by the time I got back, it was later than when I normally eat lunch. So, got some stuff, got ready to eat, but right before I started eating, I'm like, I kind of need to go to the bathroom. Might as well do it before I eat. That way I have more space, and, sometimes when you eat and you kind of need to go to the bathroom, eating just makes it that much more pressing. And sometimes you have to stop eating to go. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna take care of it now, get it out of the way, and then I'll eat. So go to the bathroom, do what I gotta do. And it was relatively quick. Luckily, I'm no longer constipated. That whole fiasco only lasted when I think it was pretty much only Decadron. That was the only medication that I took that caused constipation. But anyway, no longer have to deal with that. All that to say, it didn't take that long. But, by the end, by the time I was done and, able to clean up and flush and everything, the smell got so intense that I'm like, oh crap. I think I'm gonna puke. So luckily, it didn't last long enough that I was sitting and still going while I puked. So it's not like I puked all over myself. That would have been much, much worse than what actually happened. But still, it's the first time in my entire life that the smell of my own poop has made me want to puke. Okay, it's never smelled good. Poop in general doesn't smell good. But, you're more able to tolerate it in general when it's yours. And yeah, apparently for some reason yesterday, it just hit me. At this point, I've thrown up from coughing, I've thrown up from smelling food, thrown up from brushing my teeth, but this was the first time that it happened as a result of me smelling my own poop, which is as gross as it sounds. Especially considering the fact that, by the time it got to the point where it's all right, this is happening, I had time to, get cleaned up and flush, but the odor was still there. And, when you have to puke, you basically have to put your head right above the toilet. So even though there was nothing there anymore, the smell and also the knowledge that literally seconds ago my poop was right there just made me want to throw up even more. So it's just kind of like a cycle of I feel like I'm gonna puke, so I have to put my head there, but by putting my head there, it's making me want to puke even more. And yeah, it was a very, very gross experience. Surprisingly enough, I ended up not throwing up simply because at that time, I hadn't eaten lunch yet, and I already had time to digest the food from breakfast, so there was nothing in my stomach to come back out. But, I just dry heaved, and if there was something in my stomach to come out, it definitely would have come out. So even though technically I didn't throw up, I 100% would have if it would have been possible. And of all the times I've thrown up, and at this point it's probably in the hundreds, that was definitely the grossest throw up experience I've ever had, even though I didn't actually throw up. So yeah, that was definitely not pleasant. So yeah, as I said, kind of gross, but part of the process, part of the journey. That's why I'm sharing it. Second story is later that day, at around 4 o'clock, I was trying to relax, watching TV, when suddenly power goes out. Which sucks because at this time of year, it's dark at 4 p.m. So I literally spent the next few hours sitting in the dark, freezing my ass off. Because it is getting cold. Like, it's not the middle of winter, so it's not like it's minus 30. It's like, minus 1 or 2 degrees, so it's not that bad. But still cold enough that I'm like, if this lasts, multiple hours, the entire night, potentially a couple days, the cold could become an issue. Plus, I'm super skinny now, so obviously less body fat to keep myself warm, and my body's constantly fighting off stuff. So obviously it's weaker and less equipped to fight cold and stay warm. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just head to the bed. And I ended up having to sit because I couldn't lie down because unfortunately breathing issues are still present. Not as bad as it was for the first, I'd say like 3 days after my last immunotherapy treatment. It has gotten a little better in the last few days, but it's still not back to normal, and there are certain periods where it gets worse, usually in the evening, of course. So anyway, all that to say, ended up having to, all dressed, go sit in bed, propped up against a bunch of pillows, the covers put over myself while still fully dressed. And basically I sat in the dark by myself for 3 hours. Sorry, 3.5 hours. Um, just bored out of my mind. Because that's the thing, it's like, this is the second time that there's been a power outage since while I was living alone. The last one was before I had cancer and everything, and it happened during the day, so I'm like, okay. And it was during an ice storm, so it's like, I could go outside and it's like, look at all the ice covering the trees and everything, so it's like there was ways for me to distract myself. This time, because it was dark, there was nothing to do, I had breathing issues, like it sucked. So even though it only ended up, being out for 3.5 hours, um, because of the timing, I just ended up going to, or, not going to bed because I was already in bed, but going to sleep at around 7 o'clock. Obviously, it took me a while to fall asleep. At 7:30 approximately, it came back on, but I'm like, hey, I'm already in bed, I'm already trying to sleep. No way I'm getting back up. But yeah, it was a crappy night. Woke up like a bunch of times, didn't sleep well, had breathing issues. Woke up this morning, felt like crap, felt exhausted. Still feel like crap and exhausted. But yeah, definitely not a pleasant experience. And then combine that with nearly puking from earlier in the day. Definitely not a pleasant day yesterday. And third and final story happened this morning. And as I've mentioned previously in some videos, like, I stopped reading comments multiple months ago simply because there's unfortunately certain people online who just for some reason enjoy leaving hateful comments. And it just got to the point where even though like most people who leave comments are, super kind, there is that percentage of people who just are not kind. And it just got to the point where it's like, it's not good for me to expose myself to those negative people. So I stopped reading comments as a result of that. And that kind of makes sense to a certain degree because it's my channel, I'm literally sharing my life. When people, criticize that or attack that, of course it's going to affect me more than any other person would in this situation. However, one of my friends still watches my videos and reads the comments, And he asked me a while back, like, hey, can you remove this user? Like, they're really hateful. They're arguing with everyone. I'm tired of seeing their comments. Would you mind removing them? So I'm like, sure, no problem. So, went through the comments, found the person, blocked him from the channel. And, that was it. And then this morning, he's like, hey, there's another person, like, not quite as bad as the first one, but, still kind of like, you know, causing trouble, annoying, arguing with people. Would you mind removing them? So I went ahead and did that. And he did also mention, like, because of people like that, he's like, I understand why you stopped reading comments. And in fact, I am now myself considering no longer reading the comments on your videos because of people like that. And I just honestly, like, I find that sad that there is a culture of people online who, for some reason, like to go out and attack other people and be mean and argue and troll. And I don't understand why people do that. To me, it's like, it's a waste of time. You're just upsetting people for no reason. You get no value from this. I don't understand why people do it, but it does. And it's like, it's sad, first of all, that because of people like that, I ended up no longer reading comments. But, as I mentioned before, it's my videos, it's my life that I'm putting out there. So it's normal that it affects me more. But it's like literally people who are my friends, or maybe other people also. There's maybe other people who watched and used to comment and stopped commenting and reading the comments because of people like that. And I just find that sad. Like, I know it's online. I know that's how it works. I know there's a culture of people who, for some reason, enjoy doing that. And that's never going to change. And I've accepted that. It's just, I find it kind of sad that it's like, it is to the point where, you know, people who aren't me, who aren't sharing their life, who are just reading the comments, get so, like, annoyed and frustrated by people like that that they stop reading comments and stop commenting as a result of that. And yeah, it's sad, but part of life. So anyway, those were the three stories for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed them. And by the way, the reason why I chose to wear the hat is not because the power's still out, it's back on, everything's back to normal. It's just because, the power was out last night and it was getting kind of cold. I'm like, oh, let's go with the theme of the video and put a hat on. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you in the future.